This week I went to my first Age of Sigmar tournament, and I have a lot to talk about. It's just probably not what you'd expect.
Okay.
Welcome, Wargamers. My name is Doug with 2+ Tough, and here was the plan. The plan was I would go to my first event and play a bunch of games, and then talk about, basically I wanted to jumpstart a new series talking about tactics and list building. I thought this would be a great kind of first exposure into that world, and kind of jumpstart that kind of series there. And my day didn't quite pan out the way I expected it. So for reasons that are going to become obvious here in a second, we're going to change that. We're not going to talk about the games that I played and the lists that I came up against and built and stuff like that. Instead, we're going to talk about what tournaments should be like. What do you think tournaments should be like? This is a discussion video. I'm going to ask you a boatload of questions, and I want opinions. And I'm going to be monitoring the comments down below, really interacting, because this is something that I'm very curious about, because this coming year I'm going to be traveling to conventions and things like that. So I want to know what is reasonable for me to expect and enjoy. So let me tell you the story of my day, and then we're going to have a discussion afterwards. So I drove an hour south down to Tacoma, because I live way north, just above Seattle. And so I drove down to Tacoma, and there met at Terra Crux Games, which is an incredible venue, by the way. If you are in the area and you have not been to that store, it's like massive. So go check it out. And the owner is incredibly kind, very cool guy. So we got there. Store opened at 9, started doing the tournament stuff, getting all set up. I was running a little late because I had never used Best Coast Pairings, the app, which is a really, really cool system. And so I got kind of hooked up on those and had to upload my list, that kind of stuff. And so it was really, really a good experience. Everyone was incredibly kind and very, very, I don't know, some of them watched the channel. If you're watching, hey, what's up? And it was great. It was very friendly people, all there for the same reason, very warm and welcoming. So the pairings go live, and I meet up with Chris, who's playing Legions of Nagash at the bottom table, so number 7. You can check out my pictures over on Instagram if you want to follow along. So it was my Iron Jaws versus his Legions of Nagash book. I almost said Undead. But in this game, here's the thing I want to preface. I had a good time with a person. We laughed a lot, made a lot of jokes. We gave each other the benefit of the doubt on a few things, because some of the terrain pieces were a little wonky, so moving over things was a little awkward. His Nagash, I think, came off his base, so we were okay with putting Nagash off to the side and using his base as a space holder, basically, and that kind of jovial stuff. Had a great time, and he is a very fun opponent to play against. Can't stress enough how much I enjoyed his company, and that's really important to know, because I want that to be the defining thing that I talk about with this game. The other minor thing, and this is important for later on, is that there were a lot of rules mistakes. Simply put, he told me straight up in the beginning that he hasn't had a chance to play a lot. I think there's not many people in his local area. And so there's a lot of little things, for example, like with grave sites, and how you can resurrect dead stuff with Legions of Nagash. The mistakes like setting up a unit within 9 inches versus wholly within 9 inches. There were a lot of things that I had no idea he was making a mistake about until I saw his next game, where someone was able to correct him on some of those things. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, a lot of things went wrong in that game. I fully admit that I had absolutely no chance of winning. Simply put, I have no defense against the kind of beat-faced debuffs and magic that he can pour out, as far as a Nagash player. And I don't have an answer for those things. So it's not about feeling salty because I didn't win, because I think I could have. I wasn't going to win that game. It was more just what it came down to was I couldn't readily ask questions about his battle tome because he was using his cell phone rather than a physical copy. His first turn took quite a while because there were so many spells. We'll get to why there were a bunch more. We used Rumscape rules with Rum spells. We'll get to that in a second. But really what I want to say is that at the first turn, I kept asking questions. Are you sure that's it? Does that sound right? Those kinds of things. But then after an hour, I was so ground down. I was already going to lose. I already knew that. So it's how much more time do I want to burn by just asking questions that, I don't know, they're not going to help at all. Knowing fully well that the answer is not as easy as flipping open a book. It's backing out of your war scroll on your phone, going over to the battle tome section, finding the right page, zooming in on it, sharing with your opponent, talking about it, going back into the app, going back to the war scroll section because you were in the middle of something. Again, this whole process takes place because there's not a physical copy there for you. So that game ended on turn 3. We wrapped it up. I got wiped off the board. Just through spells and being able to resummon things, I got wiped off the board pretty handily. So I don't feel like I don't feel like a victory was stolen from me because I don't think I had a chance. At the same time, there were enough mistakes to be like, I don't feel like we really played a game. But like I said, the most important thing is I walked away from that feeling like that wasn't a great tournament game, but it was a fun game with a person that I enjoyed spending 2 hours with, and I had no ill feelings about it. In fact, he was like, hey, where are you guys going for lunch? Can I join you? Yeah, dude, come with us. And he came, hooked up on AOS Sigmar Champions, the app, and well, I think it's down right now, but we'll be playing games there. And so like that kind of stuff. Like I had a good time with him, and I want to stress that because it's very important to me. So immediately after round 1, we went down to this restaurant the TO had designated, hey, we're all going to go there and have lunch. And so as we're all kind of filling in and we crunched a bunch of tables, because I think there was like 16 or 14 of us, right as the TO walked in, he said, pairings are up, check them out. So we all bust out our phones and look at them, and I got the bye round 2. So this is one of the first of my questions I want to ask all of you, okay? And this is sincerely. When I played in tournaments for X-Wing and then War Machine and Hordes, and I played a lot of War Machine and Horde tournaments. I did pretty well in Iowa. I really enjoyed the game, Sigmar for life. So when a tournament had an odd number of people, in those games, the TO sat out the whole round. He would always bring an army in case there were an odd number of people without him. That way he would always play the odd man. He would always bring like a super fluffy, pillow-fisted thing, something that's more fun and thematic than it was competitive, because the TO should not win his own event. It was their mentality. And if there's an even number of players without them, then it's a perfect event, and they just kind of organize and facilitate and take pictures and try to promote and things like that. That is an expectation that I have because of other game systems, and I wholeheartedly understand that. I want to ask, is that your expectation? Because of this, the TO, I didn't realize this until afterwards, I saw him walking around round 1 because I thought we had an even number of players. It turns out he gave himself the bye round 1, and then I got round 2. So again, there is no judgment, no negativity in that. It is simply a question. How do you, especially if you're a tournament organizer, because I know some of them watch this show, or this channel rather, how do you handle odd numbers of player situations? Because at this point, by 2:30 p.m., I have spent as much time driving to the event as I actually spent playing with it. 2.5 hour round the first round, and then the round trip from where I live down south to back up took me 2.5 hours on the nose. But anyway, the pairings go up and we have our lunch, and I had an amazing lunch. It was really fun to sit and chat with people. I had Jack across from me, and he was asking me questions about the Legion of the Gash player I had because he played in the next round, asking about stuff in his list and things like that. And we're looking at a table, and I took a picture. It's on Instagram. Everyone's laughing. We're having a great time. It's really just fun to hang out with nerds. And this is exactly what I picture when people go to conventions, of just everyone just like having a common interest and laughing. I had a great time. One thing became quickly evident, though, was that lunch was taking a lot longer than we expected. The venue that we went to for lunch, I don't know if they just weren't ready, or they had a waitress. I think she was a new waitress, but she was very sweet. But it took quite a while to get our order in, and so we actually came back to our second round pretty darn late. Now, the reason this is important is because the time the event was supposed to end was at 7-ish. Okay, and I'm always okay with ish. The thing is that we got back so late from lunch that by the time the event was supposed to end at that point, because of the pushback schedule, and the time that I would get home, I wouldn't be home until almost 10 o'clock at night. And I have a wife and all these kinds of responsibilities and stuff I had to get done for the day. So here I am. I finished round 1. I have a bye round 2. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, I can't stay for the whole round 3. So I had about 2.5 hours to sit there and think about it to myself, and I was like, well, if I leave now, I paid $15 for one game that wasn't my favorite, and I spent as much time driving here as I did for that one game, but the alternative is to sit here and, and I was chatting it up with people, being jovial. I got a bunch of pictures, I put it online, a lot of you guys commented on them, and there's great looking armies, and it's a lot of fun, but I don't want to be home that late at night. So after about, an hour and a half into that round, I walked up to the TO. I just confirmed, when do you think the next round time is going to start? Did the quick math in my head, and I was like, I'm going to head home. And ducked out at that point. Now, Jack from Rerolling Ones was there, and he is a great guy. And can I just say, just for the moment, he's not like here in my room or anything like that, but I respect his ability to walk in two worlds. This world of competitive stuff where he brought the Stormcast list that can just absolutely curb stomp somebody. But also, I know Jack, and I know that the more narrative, flavorful things are definitely his jam. And I love the fact that he can, like I said, do both so extremely well. And he saw the kind of hard time that I was having and the experience I was having. And so when I told him I think I'm going to head home, he was like, okay. He understood. No pushback whatsoever. And I think I really appreciated that. Now, I held off on doing this video because I really wanted to mull over what I think could have changed the course of that day. When I left my home at, like almost 8 o'clock in the morning, and was supposed to be gone till almost 8 o'clock at night because of the commute and times and travels like that. The entire 12-hour span was dictated by like a 45-minute gap where my game ended with the Legion of Nagash guy, pairings went up, and lunch ran long. So you know what I mean? Like that was kind of the pivotal moment, and really what I tried to do was think about what could have been different without too much emotion, right? Without saying like, I had a bad time. That's not true. I met some really fun people and I had a lot of laughs. I didn't have a bad time. There are just a few events that really dictated how that whole day went down. So I'm going to throw them out here, and I want you to tell me if I'm being reasonable, because I think that they are, but I want, this is again, a dialogue. I've never been to an Age of Sigmar event. I've only done War Machine and Hordes, and I've only done X-Wing. So this is me carrying expectation baggage from those things. Tell me your thoughts. Number one, I think it would be really nice for all players to bring a physical copy of their battle tomes or any relevant material. Now, for the event, he did say you have to have your core book. You have to have, if you're losing any like artifacts from Aligned Sorcery, you have to have that, and you have to have something else. I can't remember what the third thing was. But something like a battle tome is easy to forget because we do have those nice War Scroll cards and things like that, and it's all digital. You can have it on your iPad or your phone in this case, whatever like that. But being able to hand someone else a battle tome and say, like, double check what I'm doing is so radically different from being able to flip through your phone on it. Because honestly, I wouldn't have double checked everything he did. I would have brought it open to the Allegiance ability section, which has all like the summoning stuff because it's all kind of the same for Nagash, and pretty much the spells. And those 2 pages would have given me the opportunity to correct very quickly and accurately a lot of the stuff that happened in our game. And fundamentally, that's what it was about. It was about the quickness of it. I have no doubt, asked him to explain how rules work, and he would have stopped on his phone and got him and pulled him up and zoomed in for me. The thing is that takes so much time when you talk about the number of rules that specifically Legions of Nagash has. It's not like Iron Jaws, where everything's kind of straightforward. It really is. Okay, that's kind of why I picked the army. But Legions of Nagash has a ton of moving parts, and so being able to reference them quickly or give your opponent a chance to reference them so they know what's going on is vitally important. The second thing here, regards kind of going back to my first question, is about the buy. Now, again, I carry a lot of baggage of expectations from War Machine, Hordes, and X-Wing. Tell me your expectations if you had a odd number of people in your event with or without a TO. I won't harp on that one. I already pretty much explained my thoughts on that. The last thing that put the nail in the coffin was how late we got started from lunch. As much as I love the idea of the entire tournament going out to a lunch, when the idea was brought up like, hey, we're going to start late, someone said, well, it doesn't matter because the entire tournament's here. Well, that's true, but it matters for commute and things like that. So if you are a tournament organizer, how do you handle lunch breaks? I'm actually very curious. We don't do a lot of those things. Like all the places that I played X-Wing and War Machine Hordes at, they always had like a restaurant like attached because it was a really awesome location. So how do you guys handle that? Because our thing was always just go next door, grab some meat, come and sit back down by your army. So those really are the 3 points that I want to put out there for discussion. Having material available to your opponent, how you handle odd numbers on your tournaments as tournament organizers, and lunch times. So going back, and I can't stress this enough, I liked the people I was gaming with. Do I think that I enjoy the hobby for the same reason as them? Absolutely not. They are the competitive types. They have lists that I would never think to make because I would never find them in the battle tome. But the simple fact is the narrative and painting really scratches the itch for me. It's why I love this hobby. For them, it was the game aspect. And that is incredibly cool that we got along so well, and I enjoyed my company with them. And we come for completely different reasons, but we still had a great time getting to know one another. And so I think that is really a testament to why this is such a cool hobby. And again, that's why I was kind of mulling this over on the way home. And I'm like, I don't regret going. I didn't have a bad time. I also probably wouldn't go again, and I'm trying to discern the specific events that happen to kind of dictate my day. At least that's like the most mature thought that I can have about it, and if I'm being a jerk, let me know. Regardless, I will say this for a few things. One, I went there with two expectations. One was to win at least one of my 3 games. The second was to practice event coverage for when I go to conventions and things like that. And I gotta say, the event coverage one I definitely achieved. I like being able to walk around, take pictures of stuff, shake hands, and be like, this is really awesome, what are you guys doing? Without interrupting too much, obviously, and really get a sense for what a game hall environment could be like. So I think it did its job in a sense of preparing me for what those kinds of things will be like. And hey, technically I got a buy, so that's not really a loss. So I broke, so I achieved the letter of my goal, but not the spirit of my goal. Yeah, I'm counting that. But anyway, I'm winding down the discussion. So tell me your thoughts on events and stuff like that. If you are a tournament organizer and you have an idea to run a narrative event, please email me. Go to the main page of this channel. If you go to the About section, it has my email. I want to do events locally, but I don't know how to structure it. And I have some ideas based on my experience this weekend, but a lot of things I don't want to pull over. I think you can understand why. So go ahead and message me, send me an email, and I'd love to chat with you all very soon. As a sad note to you guys and my patrons, I did want to start a tactical series diving into stuff. I likely am going to have guests kind of take the reins on that one. My experience with the competitive stuff wasn't the start that I wanted, and so I'm probably going to jump in that a little bit later with some folks coming in and talking about different ways to play effectively. Thank you all so much for watching. I look forward to talking to you in the comments down below.